The alien flagship trembled under a series of violent shocks. Fire streaked across the walls, and warning lights flickered red and yellow. Smoke filled the corridors, making it hard to see. Queen Lyra, the young ruler of the Thaleri Empire, stumbled as she was guided by her guards. The queen's long silver robes were singed in some places, and her face showed fear, though she tried to hide it. "Your Highness, we must move quickly," one of the guards said, tugging at her arm. His voice shook. Outside, explosions echoed through the hull, and the sound of breaking metal made everyone flinch. Lyra nodded, gripping her staff tightly. She had always been trained to face danger. But this was different. The attackers came in overwhelming numbers. Strange, dark-armored figures moved through the corridors like shadows. They did not speak. They struck without warning. On a human cruiser nearby, Captain Ethan Cole was preparing his team. His face was set and serious, but his mind raced. He had trained for dangerous missions before, but nothing like this. The order was clear. Help the alien queen escape and keep her safe. The Thaleri Empire was an important ally, and losing the queen could mean losing the war. "Check your gear, move fast, and remember the civilians on board," Ethan said. His voice was calm, but it carried authority. His team of human soldiers nodded and checked their weapons. Each man and woman knew the danger ahead. They were about to board a ship filled with chaos. Meanwhile, inside the flagship, Lyra's guards struggled to hold their line. The alien warriors were strong and trained, but panic had begun to spread. One by one, some guards were abandoning their posts. They ran down the corridors toward escape pods, leaving the queen behind. Lyra noticed this and felt a sharp pang of betrayal. She had relied on them, trusted them to protect her, and now they fled. "Stay close, Your Highness!" a younger guard shouted. He looked nervous, but he did not run. Lyra nodded, trying to ignore the fear creeping in. She moved quickly, following the narrow passageways that led to the hangar bay. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the ship. Metal screeched and twisted, and a panel above Lyra fell toward her. She jumped back, but she stumbled on the uneven floor. She fell hard, hitting the wall with her shoulder. Pain shot through her arm. She tried to rise, but before she could, strong hands grabbed her and lifted her up. "You okay?" a voice asked. Lyra looked up. Captain Ethan Cole was crouched beside her. His uniform was smudged with smoke and dust, and he carried a plasma rifle in one hand. He was calm, but there was a sharp intensity in his eyes. "Yes," Lyra said, though her voice was shaky. "Don't worry about saying yes. Just hold on," Ethan said. He turned and scanned the corridor. "We need to move. Now." Lyra felt a strange warmth. In a place where everyone else was running, this human soldier had come to help her. He did not hesitate. He did not look away. He stayed. They ran together down the corridors. Ethan moved ahead, clearing the path and checking for danger. Lyra tried to keep up, though her arm hurt and her robe slowed her down. She noticed that her own guards had mostly vanished. Only a few stragglers followed behind, frightened and unsure. At one junction, they stopped. A section of the corridor had collapsed, and sparks flew from exposed wires. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to breathe. The enemy was close. Lyra could hear the soft, clicking steps of the dark-armored attackers. Ethan crouched behind a bulkhead and peered around. "We'll need to go through here," he said. "It's tight, but it's the only way to reach the hangar. I'll go first. You stay close to me." Lyra nodded, gripping his arm lightly. She had learned to trust her instincts in battle, but now she was learning to trust a human. She did not know why, but something about Ethan's calmness made her feel safer than she had in years of royal training. The corridor was narrow and sparks rained down from the ceiling. Ethan moved carefully, using his weapon to disable a few security traps left by the attackers. He motioned for Lyra to follow. She ducked under a hanging piece of metal and slipped past a burst of fire. Every step was dangerous. Every corner could be their last. "Why are you helping me?" Lyra asked quietly, her voice trembling. Ethan glanced at her as they moved. Because someone has to. You are the queen. You mean a lot to your people. And because it's the right thing to do. Simple as that. Lyra looked at him. She had heard words like this before, promises made to her by her own people. Most of the time they were empty. But this human soldier meant it. She could feel it. A sudden crash sounded behind them. One of her remaining guards screamed and bolted toward an escape pod, leaving Lyra and Ethan alone in the corridor. Lyra felt panic rise in her chest, but Ethan grabbed her arm firmly. "Do not stop. Keep moving," he said. They ran. Around another corner, the corridor was partially blocked by debris. Ethan bent down, lifting Lyra over a fallen support beam. She stumbled in his arms, but he caught her smoothly. For a moment, she felt almost weightless, as if nothing else in the galaxy existed except this human and her own fear. They reached a larger chamber. The hangar bay was partially destroyed. Fire roared along the walls, and smoke made the ceiling disappear into darkness. The Queen's eyes widened. Ships that were supposed to be ready for evacuation lay in twisted ruins. Some were on fire. "We'll make it," Ethan said, his voice firm. He scanned the hangar. A few human Marines and alien stragglers had already taken positions near the exit doors. He guided Lyra to a damaged shuttle, checking it for functionality. "It's risky, but it will fly. You can trust me," he said. Lyra hesitated. She looked at the wreckage and the fleeing guards. The Empire had taught her to be careful, to rely on her people, but now they had left her. She realized she could only rely on this human soldier. Her heart pounded, but she nodded. Suddenly, dark figures moved along the edges of the hangar. The attackers were closing in. Ethan fired first, precise and calm, covering the exit. Lyra ducked behind a support beam, watching him. The way he fought, focused and unflinching, gave her courage. She realized she could survive this with him. The fight was short but intense. Ethan's team pushed the attackers back enough to allow them to reach the shuttle. Lyra climbed in first, then helped a few alien civilians who had survived the corridors. The shuttle was crowded, but there was room enough. Ethan was the last to enter. He checked the hatch, made sure it sealed, and then took the co-pilot seat. Lyra looked at him. For the first time in her life, she felt that someone truly cared about her life, not her title. The shuttle shuddered as the engines roared to life. Fire and debris flew past them as they left the destroyed flagship behind. Lyra clutched the armrest, her mind racing. She looked at Ethan. "You didn't have to risk yourself," she said quietly. Ethan glanced at her and smiled faintly. "I did. Someone had to. You're alive, aren't you?" Lyra nodded. The weight of her crown, her empire, and her fear seemed lighter in that moment. She realized that even in the darkest hour, there could be loyalty and courage in the most unexpected places. As the shuttle flew away from the burning flagship, Lyra turned to watch the enemy ships. She knew the war was far from over, but she also knew that she had someone she could trust beside her. Ethan Cole, a human soldier, had not fled. He had stayed, and for the first time in days, Lyra allowed herself to hope. The stars stretched ahead of them, silent and cold, but Lyra felt warmth in her chest. She knew that the next battles would be hard, that the enemy was still out there, and that she would need to make choices her empire had never faced before. But for now, she was safe, because of a human who refused to run. She looked at Ethan again. "Thank you," she said simply. Ethan nodded, focusing on piloting the shuttle. "We're not done yet, but you'll live. That's enough for now." Lyra watched the stars, thinking about loyalty, courage, and the strange bond forming between her and the human soldier. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and uncertainty, but for the first time, She did not feel alone. The shuttle sped toward the unknown, carrying a queen and a human soldier who had survived when all others had fled. And somewhere deep in her heart, Lyra knew that she could face anything, as long as he stayed by her side. The shuttle moved silently through space, leaving the burning flagship far behind. Lyra pressed her hands against the cool metal of the cabin, her eyes watching the stars. She could still see small fires flickering on the hull, and she knew the attackers would not stop easily. Danger was still close, but for now, she was alive. Ethan sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls. He glanced at Lyra. "We're not completely safe yet. Enemy ships are patrolling the area. If they find us, it will be hard to escape." Lyra nodded. "I understand, but at least we are alive." Her voice was quiet but firm. She had always valued strength and control, but she realized that sometimes survival mattered more than pride. The shuttle jolted suddenly and alarms rang. Ethan grabbed the controls, steadying the ship. A small warning light blinked on the panel. "Electromagnetic pulse. They are trying to disable us," he said. He pressed a few buttons, and the engines whined, struggling to regain full power. Lyra leaned closer. "Can you fix it?" Ethan shook his head slightly. "We can manage, but it will be slow. I need to steer manually through this field of debris." Outside, broken pieces of ships and satellites floated in the void. The shuttle had to weave carefully to avoid colliding. Lyra held tightly to the seat, feeling the stress and fear of everyone aboard. "Why are you helping me so much?" she asked quietly. Her voice had a note of curiosity mixed with awe. "Even your own soldiers might die if they try to save us." Ethan did not look at her immediately. He focused on piloting, making small adjustments to avoid floating debris. Finally, he spoke. "Because someone has to. It is not about orders or politics. It is about doing the right thing. I don't leave people behind, and that includes you." Lyra studied him. She had been raised in an empire where loyalty often depended on fear or reward. Promises were common, but actions were rare. And yet, this human soldier risked his life without hesitation. She felt a strange respect growing in her heart. The shuttle jolted again as a small asteroid clipped the side, sending sparks inside the cabin. Lyra steadied herself, her eyes widening. Ethan barely flinched. He reached out and pressed a button, stabilizing the ship. "You are very brave," Lyra said softly. "I do what I must," he replied. "Bravery is sometimes just staying where you are when everyone else runs." Lyra fell silent, thinking about the words. She had watched her own guards flee while he stood firm. She realized that the courage of one person could outweigh the weakness of many. The shuttle continued its slow course through the debris field. A few of the alien civilians they rescued were quiet, still frightened by the chaos they had survived. Lyra walked among them, checking if anyone was hurt. She saw a young alien girl with tears in her eyes. Lyra knelt beside her. "It is okay," she said softly. "You are safe now." The girl nodded, still trembling. Lyra's attention returned to Ethan. He was studying the control panels, his face tense but calm. He had an easy confidence that inspired those around him. Lyra realized that in the human way, courage was not about showing off or commanding respect. It was about action, simple and clear. Suddenly, a blip appeared on the radar. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "They found us. Enemy patrols are closing in. We have to move fast." Lyra's heart beat faster. "Can we outrun them?" Ethan shook his head. "Not completely. We can hide, but we have to be smart. Follow my instructions." He maneuvered the shuttle toward a cluster of asteroids, using them as cover. The enemy ships moved faster, scanning for signs of their target. Lyra watched them on the viewport, noticing their sleek black forms gliding between the rocks. They were silent hunters, precise and dangerous. Inside the shuttle, Ethan coordinated the civilians and the remaining aliens. "Stay low, keep quiet, and do not touch the controls unless I tell you." His voice was calm but firm. Lyra noticed that even in the stress of battle, he maintained control. A small asteroid blocked their path, and the shuttle barely missed it. Sparks flew along the hull. The cabin shook violently. Lyra's hands gripped the metal frame. "Ethan, are we going to make it?" "Yes, but we must stay focused," he said. "Do not panic. Panic will kill us faster than anything else." Lyra took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain calm. She looked around at the civilians. They were scared, but they followed Ethan's instructions. She realized that leadership was not about fear or power. It was about guiding others when they could not guide themselves. The shuttle emerged from the asteroid field and into open space. For a moment, relief washed over everyone, but Ethan's eyes did not leave the radar. "We are not safe yet. They are faster than us. We have to use another trick." He reached over and pressed a few buttons. The shuttle's engines hummed differently, shifting power to hidden thrusters. Lyra leaned closer. "What are you doing?" "Improvising," he said simply. "They expect us to run straight. We are going to move unpredictably. It might confuse them long enough to escape." Lyra watched in amazement. Humans, she realized, could adapt in ways her trained alien soldiers often could not. They relied on quick thinking and instincts as much as training. She felt a growing admiration for Ethan's skill. The enemy ships adjusted their path, but they hesitated, unsure of the shuttle's movement. Ethan guided them in a series of sharp turns, weaving between small debris, using the shuttle's small size to their advantage. Lyra's heart pounded. She felt fear, but she also felt a strange thrill. She realized that surviving was not just about strength, but about intelligence and courage combined. And Ethan had both in abundance. After several tense minutes, the enemy patrols began to retreat. The shuttle was battered and scratched, but it was still intact. Lyra allowed herself to relax slightly. She looked at Ethan. "You are remarkable," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "We are all remarkable when we try. You too, Your Highness. You faced the battle without panic. You made choices while others ran." Lyra blushed slightly. She was not used to receiving praise, especially from someone she respected. She realized that she was beginning to trust him completely. He had not only saved her life, but had also taught her something about courage and loyalty. For the next few hours, they navigated quietly through space. Ethan explained the importance of staying hidden, using debris and sensor shadows to their advantage. Lyra listened carefully, learning from him. She realized that humans could teach her strategies she had never considered. At one point, they encountered a small cluster of damaged satellites. Ethan decided to use them as temporary cover. The shuttle moved slowly, and Lyra held her hands together, watching the stars. She thought about her guards who had fled. She realized that loyalty was rare, even among those trained to be brave, and yet, here was one human soldier who had stood by her, risking everything. "I never expected anyone to stay with me when everyone else ran," she said quietly. Ethan glanced at her. "Sometimes it is not about expecting, it is about choosing. I chose to stay." Lyra's mind turned over the words. Choosing to stay. That was courage. That was loyalty. That was something her empire had forgotten. She looked at Ethan, realizing that the bond between them was growing, not because of orders or politics, but because of trust and shared danger. The shuttle's small cabin was quiet, except for the hum of engines. Lyra walked among the passengers, checking if everyone was breathing and uninjured. She spoke quietly to the civilians, reassuring them. She realized that courage could inspire others. Her own fear seemed lighter when she focused on helping others. Ethan's voice called from the pilot seat. We have a chance to reach a hidden outpost. It is small, but it is defended. We might be safe there for a while." Lyra nodded. "Then we go there. Together." The shuttle moved toward the hidden outpost. Lyra felt a sense of relief, but also a new awareness. Danger was never far. The enemy could strike again at any moment. But now she had a partner, someone who would not abandon her. She turned to Ethan once more. "Thank you for staying." He nodded. "We are not done yet, but we will survive. Together." Lyra realized that he was right. Survival was not just about escaping danger. It was about standing together, making choices, and trusting one another. She felt a small smile. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, but for the first time she did not feel alone. The shuttle sped through the void, carrying a queen, a human soldier, and a group of survivors. They were battered, scared, and exhausted. But they were alive, and in the darkness of space, a bond was forming that would shape the future. The stars were silent witnesses as Ethan guided the shuttle. Lyra watched, and the survivors clung to hope. For now, they were safe. But the universe was vast, and danger was far from over. Lyra knew that the journey ahead would be full of challenges. Yet she also knew that as long as Ethan Cole was by her side, they had a chance to face whatever came next. And in that moment, she felt a courage deeper than fear. A courage born from trust, action, and the choice of a human who refused to leave her behind. The shuttle glided through space, quiet now, except for the hum of the engines. Lyra sat in a corner, her eyes on the stars. She had survived so much in the last few hours. The flagship was gone. Her guards had fled. And yet, she was alive. She felt a strange mix of fear and relief. Ethan sat beside her, his hands resting on the control panel. His face was tired, but his eyes were alert. He scanned the readouts, checking for signs of danger. "We are not out of danger yet," he said. "The enemy could track us at any moment." Lyra nodded. "I know, but you have kept us alive so far. I trust you." Ethan glanced at her. "Good, you should. Trust is important out here. Without it, people die." They moved through a quiet part of space, hoping to reach the hidden outpost Ethan had mentioned. The shuttle was small, but it was fast, and could hide in the shadows of asteroids and debris. Lyra watched him work, impressed by how calm he was. Even when they faced danger, he never panicked. She realized that humans had a kind of courage different from her own people. They relied on action and quick thinking, not just strength or ceremony. Suddenly, the radar beeped loudly. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Enemy scouts! They are close!" He grabbed the controls. "We have to move fast, or they will catch us." Lyra stood beside him, watching the screen. "Can we fight them?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "Not yet. We are too few. But we can hide and maybe confuse them long enough to escape." He maneuvered the shuttle toward a small cluster of broken satellites. The enemy scouts followed, but Ethan guided the shuttle between the debris, moving in ways that the attackers did not expect. Lyra felt her heart race with every turn. Sparks flew from near collisions, and the cabin shook. "You are very skilled," she said quietly. Ethan smiled faintly. "We have to be. Otherwise we wouldn't survive." The shuttle slipped between two large pieces of debris. For a moment they thought they had lost the scouts. But then a dark ship appeared ahead, larger than the others. It was an enemy frigate, heavily armed and fast. Lyra's eyes widened. "They want us," Ethan said calmly. "We have to get creative." He adjusted the engines and brought the shuttle closer to the edge of a nearby asteroid field. "We will use the asteroids to hide, but it will be tight. Follow my lead." Lyra held on to the railing, her robes brushing against the console. She realized that she had to trust him completely. One wrong move could mean death for everyone aboard. The shuttle weaved between the massive rocks, moving so close that a small mistake would crush them against the stone. The enemy frigate fired. Bright beams of energy streaked across space. Sparks and small explosions rocked the shuttle. Lyra ducked instinctively, her heart pounding. Ethan steered calmly, blocking the attacks with the shuttle's small size and agility. "You are amazing," Lyra said, her voice barely audible over the alarms. Ethan did not answer. He focused on piloting, but she noticed a faint smile. She realized that he never wasted energy on fear. He only acted. After several tense minutes, the frigate slowed and turned away. Ethan guided the shuttle out of the asteroid field, breathing a little easier. Lyra looked at him. "We survived. For now," he said. "The enemy is clever. They won't give up easily." The shuttle continued its course toward the hidden outpost. Lyra walked among the passengers, checking on the rescued aliens. Many were quiet, still frightened from the attack on the flagship. She spoke to them softly, reassuring them. She realized that leadership was not just giving orders. It was protecting and inspiring those who could not protect themselves. Hours passed. The shuttle moved slowly but steadily. Lyra and Ethan talked quietly. She asked about Earth, about human history, and why humans often risked their lives for others. Ethan answered honestly. "Humans believe in helping each other. We make mistakes. We fight. But we try to do what is right. Sometimes that means risking everything for someone else." Lyra thought about her guards who had fled. She realized that courage and loyalty could not be demanded. They had to be chosen. And Ethan had chosen. Suddenly, the shuttle shuddered violently. Alarms blared. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "They found us again. This is not a scout. It is a full enemy ship." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She looked at the viewport and saw a dark, menacing ship moving directly toward them. Its weapons glowed, ready to fire. "Can we fight it?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "Not directly. We are too small. But we can use a trick. Follow me exactly." He steered the shuttle toward a cluster of small, broken satellites. The enemy ship followed, firing repeatedly. Ethan guided the shuttle to hide behind the debris. Lyra held her breath. The shuttle rocked with every near hit. Sparks flew across the cabin. After several tense minutes, the enemy ship paused, trying to find them. Ethan whispered, "Now, hold tight." He turned sharply, sending the shuttle in a sudden direction that the enemy did not expect. The frigate overshot, giving them a brief window. Lyra felt a rush of adrenaline. She realized that strategy, not just strength, could save lives. Humans, she thought, were clever in ways her empire often ignored. They moved through the debris field, narrowly avoiding collisions. Ethan guided the shuttle to an old space station partially hidden behind an asteroid. It was abandoned, but it could provide temporary shelter. "We can stay here for a while," Ethan said. "We will fix some systems and plan our next move." Lyra nodded, relief washing over her. She realized that he had not only saved her life repeatedly, but he had also taught her about patience, strategy, and courage. She had always believed that being a queen meant relying on soldiers and guards. Now she knew that sometimes survival depended on the loyalty of a single person. The shuttle docked carefully with the old station. Ethan guided it into place, and the engines powered down. Lyra watched him work, repairing minor damage and stabilizing life support. She realized how skilled he was, not just in fighting, but in thinking and problem-solving. The passengers began to relax, though many still glanced nervously at the viewport. Lyra moved among them, offering comfort and words of encouragement. She realized that leadership was also about presence, showing courage even when afraid. Ethan finally leaned back, exhausted but satisfied. Lyra approached him. "You have saved us again," she said softly. Ethan looked at her and shrugged. "We are not done yet, But we are alive, and that is important. Lyra nodded. She looked out the viewport at the stars. The enemy could come again at any moment, but for now she felt a strange peace. She realized that survival was not just about strength or power. It was about trust, strategy, and loyalty. She turned to Ethan. I have always been taught that a queen's guards are her strength. But you are stronger than all my guards. Ethan smiled faintly. I am just one person. But sometimes one person can make a difference. And sometimes loyalty is worth more than numbers. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. She had seen many brave warriors in her empire, but none had stayed when everyone else ran. She realized that true courage came in unexpected forms. For the next few hours, they worked quietly in the station. Ethan repaired minor systems, prepared defenses, and taught the survivors basic survival techniques. Lyra learned from him, observing how he thought quickly, acted decisively, and kept everyone calm. At one point, she spoke to him privately. Ethan, why do you risk so much for me? You do not owe me anything. Ethan looked at her. Because I choose to. You are alive, and that is enough reason. I do not run from danger. Someone has to protect others. Today, it is you. Lyra thought about those words for a long time. She realized that trust and courage were not given. They were earned and chosen. And Ethan had chosen her. As the station's lights dimmed and the survivors rested, Lyra sat beside Ethan. The shuttle was repaired, the temporary shelter was stable, but the threat was still real. She knew the enemy would not give up, but she also knew that she was no longer alone. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the station, silent and cold. But inside, Lyra felt a warmth. She had seen loyalty, courage, and skill in a human soldier. She had learned that strength was not only in numbers or power, but in action and trust. Ethan looked at her and said quietly, "We will face the enemy together, and we will survive." Lyra nodded. For the first time, she truly believed it. The journey ahead would be dangerous. The universe was vast and full of unknown threats. But she had a partner, a human who refused to abandon her. And that gave her hope. The stars outside were silent witnesses as the queen and the human soldier prepared for what came next. Together, they would face the challenges of the universe. Together, they would survive. And together, they would prove that courage and loyalty could overcome fear and betrayal.